Hi and welcome for this episode of OmniTalk. Today we are talking about one of growth vectors in the form of IT services space. We have seen that since digital transformation has taken a center stage, we have seen a lot of opportunity for this particular growth vector. Now, today AI and generative AI are the exciting words that investors are looking at in terms of future growth opportunities. So Vikas, how do we see Gen AI or AI in general to bring investment opportunities, and why maybe for Indian markets or Indians IT services or technology companies we still not see that excitement coming in? Is there a gap in analysis?
Yeah, so I like to look at the tremendous rise of Nvidia.
Right.
Again, mentioning a stock doesn't mean you buy, sell, hold, or do anything, but it's important to bring this because now Nvidia has crossed $3 trillion. It's one of the largest. For a brief period, it was the largest
Largest.
company, right, in the world by market cap, and so it's nearly the stock price has tripled in a year, and the revenues have also tripled in a year. The profits have probably gone up 10 times. You know, so something like that. Now, what is driving that? And everyone is excited. They are actually showing the revenues. They're actually getting the growth, and the market price is also following that, right? Or going in anticipation of the future. Now, on the other hand, look at the Indian IT space. It is the belief is as if nothing is happening.
Right.
Although even Indian or IT sector would have done reasonably well in last 1 year
Right.
in terms of the stock price performance or whatever. But overall, the sentiment on Indian IT is as if there is no growth coming,
Yeah.
and so this is like a very slow growing kind of a sector, right? So there is this mismatch.
Right.
I think there is a gap, and
Right.
as we discuss, we will address that gap where it's coming from.
I think it's akin to let's say 5 years back
Hmm.
when there was a lot of excitement about technology companies broadly,
Hmm.
including Meta and Apple and whatnot, and the kind of growth we were not seeing in terms of the, let's say, top line growth for IT service, and people were saying, jumping to conclusion that Indian IT has missed the bus. They have not done any innovation on product development and
Right.
things like that.
Right.
Now, I think it's a similar thing that, okay, how would Indian IT companies, take a lead on the AI? This is to be done by the
Right.
US firms, and they get excited about the,
Yeah.
NVIDIAs of the world
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So there is some what I say cognitive dissonance,
right,
that you are saying, taking, you're looking at some phenomena and you're saying this will happen,
right,
and very logically connected to that is something else which you are not willing to pay attention to or come to the same inference
right,
conclusions. So for example, I mean, you take this demand. So where is this demand coming from? It
right,
used to be something like 26 27 billion dollars worth of chips, which Nvidia sold,
right,
right? And now it's nearly $80 billion worth. Next year it's supposed to be 120 and then 160 billion, etc. Right? So it's very, very large numbers. Now, who's buying this?
right,
Right? That's the natural question. Who's buying this? And even if you didn't have the numbers, you could just come to a logical conclusion, right? That the big data centers, or what are called the cloud service providers, they are buying it,
true,
right? And then we look at the numbers. Actually, it's true. The latest information from Nvidia shows, and then somebody else is estimating that who are those customers. So they're not disclosing the names,
yeah,
but it's estimated that about 15 to 20%, 15 to 19% is Microsoft buying it for Azure, the cloud, as well as for the OpenAI, the Copilot AI work they're doing, right?
hmm,
The second is Meta with 13%. Right? These are somebody's estimates.
right,
They're not disclosing the names, the companies. And the third is Amazon AWS, and fourth is Alphabet, both with 6% approximately. One of them could be slightly higher than the other, 6.2, 5.8, something
hmm,
like that. right? So just 4 entities are making up more than 40% of the, or even 45% of the total demand.
Right.
Naturally, the other cloud players as well, like IBM or even Tesla is buying, right?
Right.
So all those things are added demand. Then SAP or Oracle or and SAP, so forth, right? All of these guys are also buying. Then the biggest demand, which nobody talks about and which will never be known, is the defense sector, right?
True.
The intelligence and defense and so on. So and then the various countries would be doing the same thing, right? So all of that demand is coming up. A very large chunk is going to the cloud players, and there are just a handful of the cloud players. Why are they buying?
Right.
They are buying as investments. This is capex for them. So if they are creating capacity, and if between them over this year and next year, roughly they are going to buy $100 billion worth conservatively in just 2 years, then once you do a capex of 100 billion, the typical ratio I would say is something like 100 to 150 billion dollars worth of revenues.
True.
So they expect to have incremental revenues just because of this capex beyond their normal growth rates, right? Of 100 to 150 billion dollars additional revenue coming between the 3 or 4 or 5 big cloud players, right? Correct. Now, where is that going to come from? That is going to come from the spending from the Fortune 500.
Right.
Okay. I mean, that's just a way of saying it. So it means the enterprise customers, the mid market, and the SMEs all put together. There should be 100 to 150 billion dollars worth of annual recurring revenue,
right,
just based on next couple of years of capex in NVIDIA AI chips.
True.
Now, if that is going to happen, who's going to do it?
Sure.
Can a Fortune 500 company do their own AI inferencing? First of all, forget inferencing. First, they have to get the data in place, and then, which itself is not so easy. And they have to get multiple silos, different department data in one place.
Correct.
So that it can be used together.
True.
Organize it. Right. Once the data is all structured and organized, then you have to run AI models to train the AI models. Right. Then once the AI models are trained, then you run the inferencing models. Right. So who's going to do it? True. You can't employ so many people. And so naturally, it has to be outsourced to IT service providers. Correct. Right? And there are a handful of IT service providers globally, which we know, the big 4 or 5 global companies, and the remaining around 15 odd Indian companies. So it has to come to these set of technology service providers, right? IT service.
I think one of the largest IT service providers in the US put out their earnings, and they, I think, gave out a clear indication how they are seeing the demand on AI, Gen AI specifically, right?
Absolutely. And even there, I mean, the big consulting firms like McKinsey and BCG, they are already seeing a huge demand from AI consulting. Okay, so they are not even AI companies, they are general consulting companies, and they are getting a very large chunk of their revenue from AI related consulting. So first, naturally, a Fortune 500 company would come up with the AI strategy, which would come from a McKinsey like company, right? Once they have the AI strategy, then they will roll out to someone like Accenture or TCS and say that, okay, now provide us second run consulting on technology. What kind of technologies, what kind of structuring, what kind of data, how much time it will take, how much cost it will take, and so on. And
how you integrate in the enterprise flow.
Exactly. How will you integrate it with our overall IT stacks and enterprise business as well? Right. And then what will be the outcome according to you? Then they will actually start outsourcing it, right? Or buying the equipment or the data or putting the pieces together. Right. So these are leading indicators of what is expected to come for the Indian IT service providers. True. And the kind of projections or expectations people or analysts seem to have for in the Indian IT, and even the management naturally will be conservative, right? True. So we think that there is some huge mismatch where one side you are chasing something like NVIDIA through the roof as if this kind of 50-100% growth rate is going to continue forever. And on the other side, you're not paying attention to what is clearly going to be needed without which that AI revolution cannot happen.
Cannot happen. Absolutely. Right. So great. I think that's an important point that we have to keep in mind when we are looking at the growth for the service sector industries,
Absolutely.
companies. Right. So that's all for this episode.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining in. So always keep in mind that investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing. And also that registration granted by SEBI, membership of BSL, and certification from NISM in no way guarantee performance of the intermediary or provide any assurance of returns to investors.